Grammar and mechanics. Subject and verb agreement. In order to strengthen writing, make sure that the subjects in all sentences agree with the verbs. If a sentence contains a singular subject, the verb must be singular. That means that if a sentence contains a plural subject, the verb must be plural. View the agreement examples below. Notice how the first and third examples have agreement in the subjects and verbs, but notice the second example. Bryce and Tiana goes running every single day. The subject is plural, but the verb is singular. That means that this example does not agree. Some subject and verb agreement errors are difficult to catch. So we are going to view the following rules for subject and verb agreement in this presentation. Rule number 1, two subjects joined by and. Use a plural verb when the subject of a sentence has two or more nouns or pronouns joined by and. This makes your subject plural, and therefore you need a plural verb to follow. View the example on this slide. Rule number 2, two singular subjects joined by or nor. Use a singular verb when the subject of a sentence has two or more singular nouns or pronouns joined by or nor, since it's talking about one of the subject. View the example below and notice how a singular subject needs a singular verb to follow. Rule number 3, subjects that have one singular and one plural noun joined by or nor. The verb should agree with whatever subject is closest to that verb. View the examples below and notice how the verb will change depending on what part of the subject is closest to that verb. Rule number 4, when phrases come between the subject and verb and create confusion. Remember that the verb agrees with the subject and not with the noun or pronoun in the interrupting phrase. View the examples below and notice how they have interrupting phrases that might confuse you. However, make sure to have your verb agree with the subject. Rule number 5, certain words are always considered to be singular. View the words below. If you see any of these as your subject, you want to make sure that you are following this with a singular verb, because these words are always considered to be singular. Rule number 6, certain collective nouns that mean more than one person are always considered to be singular. View some examples of collective nouns below. If you see any of these collective nouns as your subject, make sure that you follow it with a singular verb, because these words are considered to be singular. Rule number 7, sentences that start with there is or there are. The subject follows the verb, so since there is not the subject, the verb agrees with whatever follows. Look at the examples below and notice how the verb depends on the subject that comes after. Rule number 8, sentences that include expressions that might cause confusion. Remember that the expressions do not change the number of the subject. If the subject is singular, the verb is too. Look at the example below and notice how certain expressions can cause confusion in agreement. Read through the sentences below and try to determine if they contain subject and verb agreement. Then read through the explanations to check your answers. As a summary, remember to look at your subjects and how they are joined together. Study the rules for how to determine the proper verb usage in order to make sure that all of your subjects and verbs agree. And finally, remember, subjects and verbs should always agree.
Created using Powtoon.